members, I too rise in support of SB 793. And I rise because obviously you've given all the reasons why we should be standing for this cause, because we know the devastating effects of tobacco. And most of our loved ones who have passed away, and I've had a lot who have, always tell me that they began as a kid. They began when they were young. And as a result of that, they struggled with their whole life and actually gave their life as a result of it. So we can sit here and pretend that we're concerned about other issues affecting young people. And it's always amazing to me, with all the legislation that I put forth, there's always another issue that we should be addressing without addressing the issue that is before us. So I want to encourage us to realize that, yes, this world is filled with issues. And if we're going to deal with them, we deal with them one at a time. And it's not easy to deal with any of these issues. But we have to begin to address the issue as it faces us. And this is growing. There's no question that tobacco was losing young people because, why? We had a campaign on how ugly tobacco was and how people who looked after they smoked and how they looked without their lungs and without their throats and all those things. And so as a result, we now find the industry trying to attract them through other things. You can't tell me that the flavored tobacco is not something that is attractive to young people, not those who are already addicted, but it provides a way to addict others. And so I rise in support of 793. But I also rise as a person who has spent the last 50 years of her life learning and teaching African American history. And I am insulted that the tobacco industry would make an effort to believe that that mentholated cigarettes is a part of African American culture. And that's what's being stated. And that this is a discriminatory piece of legislation against black people. And so I've had people calling me saying, this is unfair to us. I said, someone wants to save us and our children and finally focus upon African Americans, and you consider that discriminatory. In that case, you would have been opposed to slavery, because that surely was discriminatory, since we were the only ones enslaved in this country. And yet you decided that that's something we should get rid of because it is undesirable and it has no benefits. When I look at the history of tobacco in the black community, it is not a cultural event. There's nothing about it that I have read in all the books that I've studied and all the research that we've done that says black people are more interested in mentholated cigarette, and somehow or another it represents their culture, it represents who they are, it builds up their value system, it gives them an identity. Are we insane? No, this is what we used to call watermelon politics. And if you're not familiar with that, then what happens in our community when I was a kid in the projects and what happened in the South, politicians and others would come through our community with a wagon full of watermelon and pass them out and talk and get votes and get support. Watermelon politics that you'd never see again. This is one of the most racist things to ever talk about, that black people somehow or another love mentholated cigarettes, and it's a part of our culture, and it's going to demonize us, it's going to hurt our grandmothers and our older people who are addicted to mentholated cigarettes. I am insulted as a scholar, as a member of this House, as a person who just required ethnic studies for every CSU graduate in the state, that someone who has not spent 1 minute talking about African American culture would have the audacity to tell me that this is black, that this is what black people are about. No, this is what racist folks are about who want to make $1 on black and poor kids, on young people who have color. This is what this is, and we should not confuse it. So if you think you're voting to help black people, don't do that. Vote for this bill, because this is not a race issue. This is an economic issue that has always pimped people of color and used them for the benefit. So I'm outraged as a member of this House, but most importantly, I'm outraged as a scholar, that they would use this to try to pretend that they are helping black people, promoting our culture, and then use our friends and our ministers and others to make us believe that there's some discrimination in this. I said, if they are discriminating against us this time, hallelujah, because it's a good discrimination. And maybe we'll get to the others later on who are at the hookah lounges and other places to make sure that they're protected also. So I want to encourage you to vote for SB 793 as a good bill that will begin to deal with the issue and protect our children from what we see is coming, which is a horrible habit that will devastate their lives and take the best of them. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Dr. Weber. Ms. Gonzalez.